Thank you, Mr. President, and welcome back, residents and staff. Sorry for the delay and the technical glitches. I'm going to try and run through the agenda as quickly as possible. We'll go back to 1A, and I'm going to do the first three, 1A, B, and C. February 2025 Highway Department report. There is an attachment. B is January 2025 Refuse and Recycling Department report. There's an attachment. And C, February 2025 Parks Maintenance Department report. Are there any questions, comments from members of the board with respect to those three departmental reports? I see none, so I will move for approval. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Item 1D, February 2025 Street and Traffic Light Superintendent Report. 1E, February 2025 Fleet Superintendent Report. And I'll ask if there are any questions or comments on items 1D and 1E. I see none, so I'll move for approval. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, thank you. I will go to item 1F. And please, board, if I miss you, just call my attention to it. February 2025 Stormwater Coordinator Report. Any additions, questions, or comments from members of the board? There you go, Samantha, you're spared today. I see none. I'll move for approval. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, thank you. And items 1G and H. G is the Shade Tree Advisory Commission, February 13, 2025 report. And 1H is the Environmental Advisory Council, February 10th, 2025 report. Any questions or comments from members of the board? I'm looking for hands that are routinely raised for this. I see none, so I'll move for approval. All those in favor of items 1G and 1H signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Okay, we go to old business. Item 2A, update on SEPTA's detour for the Easton Road Bridge replacement and repair project. So can I get somebody from staff? Is that you, Bo? Oh, it's Mr. Stuckert. I saw that hand. Go ahead, Joe, if you're going to give us an update, appreciate it. Of course, I ignored you in item D, so you're allowed to have a forum tonight on this one.
Thank you, sir. Good evening, commissioners. As I sent out previously in the email, because of the SPS fire, SEPTA was contacted, having to contact the governor's office, asking for some relief on this project for a short time. They reached out to the contractor and SEPTA, or to SEPTA, asking them to see if they could adjust their schedule. SEPTA cannot adjust the schedule on the Keswick Avenue Bridge. That is a hard set date based on closures of the line. So that one they cannot change. That will still be that Memorial Day timeframe. I just got an email this afternoon from Bob Kennett, SEPTA. They've talked with their contractor and come up with a start date of July 7th for the Easton Road project, ending on August 25th. Again, weather depending, but that's their expected start and finish date as of now for the Easton Road part of the project.
Joe, do we need to at least get some time to just consider the impact on the various departments and the various businesses, et cetera, that would be affected by that revised date?
So I do know that at the previous meetings, the businesses were pretty adamant that they would prefer it during this time frame. So hopefully they're still agreeable to that. But like I said, because they, SEPTA didn't want to have to move it, I'm sure it cost them some stuff with their contractor based on contracts, but that's the date that they can get it done. And this way it's also completed before school starts again.
Thank you. Commissioner Cherico, I saw that hand raised.
Yeah, I was just going to say the same thing that Joe said, that I've been in touch with Tim Way over at the Ways and some other businesses, and they were all very eager from the beginning to have this over the summer months when it is slower. So this, unfortunate situation is a fortunate development for the businesses along Easton.
Are there any concerns from our public safety group, from our police, fire, EMS, with just respect to timing or any of the detours, et cetera, with that July date? Does that have any impact?
I did send that my original email out as far as, what was happening today. Like I said, I just got that this afternoon, late this afternoon. So I told them I would bring that up this evening, that I really didn't see a problem on it based on previous conversations, but that I would get back to them tomorrow morning so they can, again, start planning for their adjustments.
Can we have the 2 weeks between now and the legislative session just to surface any potential problems or issues?
That's up to you, but like I
Yeah.
said, that's the dates they came up with based on
Okay.
previous discussions and what they can pivot for.
Okay, I see, Mr. President,
Okay.
Commissioner Orman.
Thank you. Joe, if you wouldn't mind just letting Bob Kent know that he should also circulate those dates to the local businesses as they've committed to do. And I know they've been in communication with the Downtown Glenside Foundation and are developing a very positive communication relationship there. But I think it's important to make sure we're getting this information out as quickly as possible, as well in advance as possible. So if you could just remind him of that, and I assume all other accommodations will remain in effect. The signage for the businesses during this time and that sort of thing. The other thing I noted is I think that's 7 weeks, and I thought they had suggested that the project was going to be 6 weeks. So maybe we could double check on that to make sure that we're still sticking to as short a time frame as possible.
Yeah, like I said, I think in his email that's the planned start date, and they plan on being completed by then, if not sooner. As with the 6 weeks earlier, their hope is that they can get through this without massive weather, and they can actually hopefully get it done earlier, is what their hope is. And I do know that, I told him I'd bring it tonight, and once he got a response back that he was going to get that circulated through Deb Campbell to the businesses and everything. And they would then send an update so we can get it posted as well on the website.
Sounds good. Thank you.
So do we want to basically, go ahead, I'm sorry.
Oh, I don't have anything else. I don't think there's anything to vote on. I think it's just a matter of getting the update and ensuring that SEPTA continues to communicate and provide the accommodations that they've.
Right. I just want to empower Mr. Stucker to give an answer in a timely fashion for SEPTA, but also to make sure that we've done adequate disclosure. That's where I'm at. So if there's no need for a vote, I think that the communication and the disclosure has to be made so we can get this, teed up so everybody is aware. So thank you. Thank you, Mr. Stucker. Your forum is now concluded.
Thanks,
well, any other old business for Public Works? I see none, so I'll close old business and move to 3 new business and go to 3A. Consider recommending the Board of Commissioners adopt a resolution for CTDA 24-07 Ogontz Shopping Center at 8200 Ogontz Avenue, granting conditional approval and associated waivers for a minor lot subdivision of an existing parcel into 2 lots without any alterations to the property. The parcel is comprised of a commercial shopping strip with 9 commercial spaces and 2 newly constructed freestanding commercial buildings with a single-use tenant in one and 2 commercial spaces in the other. There is a click off for details and that kind of thing. So who from staff wants to give us an update on this one?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll jump in on this one. Actually, I'm just going to turn it over to David Citro to give a brief background on this submission, and also maybe go over the waivers, and then Roger will be able to comment on the waiver request as well.
Terrific. Thank you, Mr. Sekawongo. Mr. Citro.
Yes, good evening, Commissioners. Dave Citro from Mainstay Engineering for the applicant. As you stated, we're here for 8200 Ogontz Avenue. This is the Aldi Shopping Center with the relocated Dunkin' Donuts and the Sherwin-Williams and Charlie Steaks. This was subject to a land development application that started in 2020, was approved in 2021, and went under construction thereafter. We appeared before this committee in the fall prior to going to zoning hearing board for the request for 5 variances. All 5 variances were approved by the zoning hearing board, 4 of which were extensions or continuances of existing nonconformities, and 1 was related to final lot area of one of the parcels. We're seeking to simply subdivide the parcel through the existing parking lot, as you stated, with no improvements to the property. All improvements were completed as part of the land development that came through just a couple years ago. I can share my screen. No, I cannot share my screen apparently. Yes, we are in receipt of 3 review letters. One from the County Planning Commission, one from the Township Traffic Engineer, one from the Township Engineer. We've provided responses approximately 2 weeks ago with our intent to comply with all the requirements, with the note of requesting 3 waivers. And I believe all 3 letters also indicated the need for cross-access agreements and shared parking agreements, which the applicant and his attorney are currently working on and will submit to the township for review. So we're seeking recommendation this evening for conditional approval of this subdivision, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Mr. Phillips, do you want to just weigh in on this?
Yeah, as Mr. Citro said, we reviewed the plans, and he has indicated he can comply with all of our items that we have indicated on the plans. They were minor in nature. The 3 waivers that they're requesting, the first 2 deal with sidewalks and verges, and the third deals with street trees. All 3 of these items are addressed in the previous land development request. It's just a redundancy of the waivers, and Mr. Citro had submitted a letter indicating why they cannot attain some of these things, and basically, again, as they said, there are no improvements scheduled. This was all done and completed as part of the original land development, and all this is just purely to subdivide it.
So Roger, does both the Planning Commission and also our traffic engineer concur that those things have been addressed or in the process of being addressed?
Yeah, they received approval or recommendation of approval from the Planning Commission. I don't want to speak for our traffic engineer, and I'm not sure if he's on tonight, but I don't believe that there was anything that was brought to my attention that was required.
So are we going to move this to the legislative session anyway? So whatever we vote now, it goes to the legislative session?
I believe that's the intent, yes.
Okay. Are there any other questions, comments from members of the board on this one?
I have a couple of questions.
Go ahead, Commissioner Lewis, please.
One is, what's the purpose of subdividing the parcel, Mr. Citro?
So we have the applicant on the line, who would better answer that question than I.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Brandon, representing Kale Investments. Thank you for your time today. Part of the reason that we are requesting for subdivision is for some financial planning, so to speak. The existing right side parcel will have better long-term asset uses, and we do have plans to make more facade renovations and modernize the center. We recognize that the center is actually right as you get off 309, one of the first key buildings that you see in Cheltenham, and it is in need for some new development as far as just facade. I'm not talking about adding anything or doing anything like that. New updated signs, bring it back to 2025. And in order to do that, we need some financial flexibility, and that's why we're asking for the subdivision.
Is there a timetable for you to undergo those, to make those changes and improvement?
Our goal is within the next 3 year planning. There's a roof thing that we have to do, and so on and so forth. But yeah, our plan is to free up more capital so we could do more work and make sure that the site is representative of what Cheltenham Township is.
So the funding and the undertaking of that will take place as soon as you receive township authorization, correct?
Yes, we will start. We'll probably start getting banks to get us a loan and all that stuff, and that's part of our plan.
Okay, Commissioner Lewis, are you satisfied with that answer?
Yes, but I have a couple more.
Go ahead.
Thank you. Mr. Citro or Mr. Brandon, the current businesses, how are they feeling about this change? Has it been shared with them? What's the impact on them?
Sorry, Commissioner, I didn't catch that question.
What's the impact to the current businesses that's in that strip, if any?
Commissioner, I'm sorry, it broke up a little bit for me. I couldn't hear your question.
So let me try and cover. So Commissioner Lewis wants to know the response from the other tenants. How are they anticipating and participating in this improvement process? Is that right?
Yeah.
Dwight?
Yeah, I don't know what's wrong with my audio, but
No,
yes,
no,
that's
I think
correct.
it'll probably be on my side. Yeah, so the new tenants on the second parcel is already aware of this. Aldi is also aware that we do have plans for facade renovations, and all the individual tenants are they have known that we are going to make some sign improvements and such. We haven't released any exact details as far as renderings or sketches yet because we haven't reached that stage yet.
Thank you. One last question. The 3 waivers, can you expound on that, specifically the sidewalks? What are you asking for a waiver for?
Sure. So specifically with respect to the sidewalks, there are existing sidewalks along Ogontz Avenue. We proceeded through the land development process a couple years ago with that respect. On Limekiln Pike, there's a steep embankment that would really preclude the ability to install not only to install a sidewalk, but the safety of pedestrians then also becomes a factor when looking at that situation. I believe on the opposite side of the street, in fact, the sidewalk runs from the Wawa into the residential subdivision, but then stops there, does not continue down. There is a culvert that crosses there. The road narrows. It becomes a situation where it's probably not a stretch of road that you want people to be walking on. You don't want to send people down that way. So with the existence of the sidewalks on Ogontz Avenue, we're requesting the waiver for from that section.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I'm good, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments from members of the board or members of staff? So with none, I'll move to recommend that we adopt the resolution.
Hold on one second.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah,
Mr.
I'm so
Jericho.
sorry. Yeah. And David, thank you for your explanation. And I just want to make sure that I understand the reasoning behind the waiver for the sidewalks. And we're talking about the section on Limekiln, correct?
Yeah. So the requirement would be for both frontages, but yes, specifically with Limekiln, yes.
And the extent of the property that you're talking about, that goes down down Limekiln for quite a significant stretch of the road, correct?
So it starts just south of the billboard that's out there, and then it ends just north of the Kentucky Fried Chicken?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, my personal opinion is when it comes to sidewalks, we should not issue waivers. If you're going to do business and we have rules and regulations for putting in sidewalks, then we should create additional pathways for pedestrians. And so I think that I don't think we should be granting a waiver for this. I think that this is an important component of building a more walkable and pedestrian friendly township, which I know is everyone's priority here. And so for that reason, I'm not inclined to give my support for this waiver. I think that there should be something done to allow for greater accessibility along that stretch of road, because listen, right now there isn't. And you're right, it is a busy road that we don't want people walking by. But if there's a pathway, I would think that would allow people to be able to walk through the township and through that section a little bit more safely. So that's my opinion.
I agree with you generally speaking, but I don't even want to drive on that stretch of road, let alone walk. It's narrow. It can't be expanded from my vantage point. I'm not the expert, but I would be in support of the change.
Okay. Commissioner Rappaport.
I was just thinking as a way of satisfying both of those concerns, perhaps consideration of an in lieu of to our trails fund or something like that might be a way to work through that. And perhaps we have the 2 weeks between now and legislative meeting to consider that.
Thank you, Commissioner Rappaport. Are there any other questions or comments? And I guess what we need to do is we need to have staff look at, based on Commissioner Charco's question or concern, we at least should entertain, and maybe Mr. Citro, is there a way to be able to do cutback of the greenery and potentially expand the availability where there could be sidewalk? I know Commissioner Lewis doesn't think that's feasible.
Yeah. A complicating factor to that is that the property actually ends at closer to the top of the hill, and that's when the PennDOT right of way begins.
Okay.
And that, excuse me.
Commissioner Rappaport.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Mr. Chair. I was talking about a financial in lieu of, not a literal.
Right. I was actually trying to accommodate
Pathway.
Commissioner Charco's concern too.
Yeah,
And that, because I think we all, ideally, we would like to have walkability wherever we have those kinds of multiple location for retail, but that's, so the question is, do we have in this next 2 weeks, do we have an ability at least to get, to get staff to weigh in if that in fact is viable, or it's just not simply practical to eliminate that waiver or try and accommodate it?
And I think Commissioner Rappaport's idea too is one that can be valuable, is a valuable idea as well, if the topography or anything else prevents that from feasible.
So Mr. Citro and Brandon, I don't know your last name, but maybe what you need to do is by the time we are at our legislative meeting, which is in 2 weeks, we'd like if the determination is made that there cannot be any accommodation of that, additional waiver for sidewalks, and that waiver is going to be granted, that you need to come to back to the board with a recommendation for a payment in lieu of that action, putting some money on the table so we can use it for improving walkability in the area and that kind of thing. So we can put that on you, and in the 2 weeks, in the intervening 2 weeks, perhaps you can come back to us with what would be a reasonable number that works for you and also that works for the township. Maybe we can even have the Shade Tree Advisory Committee, whatever, propose something in their next meeting as well. Any questions or comments to that? So with that condition, I'll move that we consider recommending the adoption of the resolution with this additional consideration of CTDA 2407 for the Ogontz Shopping Center at 8200 Ogontz Avenue, recognizing there may be a need to give a little bit on one of the waivers. All those in favor of moving this to legislation session, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Okay. Thank you very much. We'll go to item B. You're welcome. Thank you both. Consider recommending the Board of Commissioners award a construction contract to Plymar Construction Company, Inc. in the amount of $149,540 for the Meetinghouse Road storm sewer improvements, subject to favorable evaluation of the bid documents submitted. There is an attachment. Who from staff wants to take this on? Is this under you, Samantha?
Yep. Thank
Go
you.
right ahead.
Much.
Thank you.
We had a bid opening on February 25th where we received one bid from Plymar. Gannett Fleming has reviewed the bid and has enclosed a letter in the packet. And we are in favor as well of awarding or recommending to award the bid.
Could we just get a quick description of what those storm sewer improvements tend to be, and also the history of some of the problems that have prompted this to be elevated to the timing that we're going to it?
Yes, no problem. Meetinghouse Road doesn't have any inlets on the upper end heading down towards Township Line Road. There is a property where the water discharges and causes some icing in really cold weather. So therefore, the project is going to install inlets that will connect down to an existing storm system towards Township Line Road.
Okay. Is this in our capital budget?
This is under the stormwater improvements.
Good. Okay.
Enterprise fund. Yeah.
Thank you. Any questions or comments from members of the board on this one?
I have a question.
Commissioner Lewis.
Yes. So was this bidded out?
Yes, yes. We had it out for bid for 4 weeks through the end of January and all through February to receive bids. So then on February 25th, there was a bid opening. We did only receive one responsive bidder, but through the evaluation and Gannett Fleming's recommendation of the bid documents, we feel that they are a good fit for the project and they meet all the qualifications.
One last question. Have we done business with Plymar before?
I do not believe so in this township, but I believe if Roger's still on, I believe he has worked with them previously. Yeah.
I'm still here, Sam.
Okay.
Yes, I have experience with Plymar in the past for other townships that I represent. They've done probably 3 or 4 projects for me over the last 20 years. With satisfactory conclusions.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Lewis. Thank you, Roger. Any other questions or comments from members of the board? And Samantha, thank you for your explanation. So I'll move that we consider recommending that we award the construction contract to Plymar Construction Company for the Meetinghouse Road storm sewer improvements. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any objections? No nays? All right, move on. Thank you. Item C, consider recommending the Board of Commissioners award a construction contract to NJS Concrete LLC in the amount of $203,972 and an important 10 cents for the Montgomery and Mill intersection improvement project, contingent upon review by the township solicitor of their contract. And so let's get feedback from staff on that one as well. Joe Stuckert, you came back.
I did.
Like a bad penny. Go ahead.
That's correct. So again, Commissioner, we've been talking about this project for a number of years.
Yes, we have.
It went out to bid. We, as you see in your packet, got several bids that came back. NJS Concrete was the lowest bid. We did review all of their bid documents, all of the paperwork submitted. And it was run by the solicitor's office, and they did approve or recommend that we could move forward with that award. They don't see an issue with that. So our recommendation is to award this project to NJS Concrete. Again, that will happen over the summertime, so there's no disruption to the school.
And I believe there was some funding from outside sources for that. Am I correct?
That is not correct on this one.
Oh, a change.
We did try. We tried several different grant
did.
funds, and we did not.
Okay, thank
we
you.
were not able to obtain those.
But I know that was an issue with respect to traffic and pedestrian safety there. So
Yes.
it's a significant issue. Any questions or comments from members of the board on that one? Commissioner Norris,
Yes.
I believe it's your ward, right?
Yes, yes, it is. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Joe, I thought we were going to, obviously, we're disappointed we didn't get grants. I thought we were going to hold off on moving forward on this unless or until we received grants.
No, the board had approved moving forward with this even without getting the grants. That was brought up in numerous previous meetings and of my monthly reports. The ones that we were not going to move forward on are the 2025 Greenlight Go projects that we just submitted last week, which were for New Second and Coventry and Lime Kiln and Waverly.
Okay, and is this the total amount for this intersection, or are there other pieces to this?
No, the only other piece which is already covered in the budget as well is just the construction services, oversight and inspections with Bowman.
And how much is that?
I would have to you approved that last month, Commissioner.
Okay.
I want to say that was under 25,000 for all final submissions filed with PennDOT and oversight and inspection.
So just one more question. I don't mean, do we have any idea why we were not successful in getting a grant? Is that just hit or miss, or?
No. So when we applied for the Greenlight Go grant, that's when PennDOT came back and said that they would not approve any changes to that intersection. They would not offer any funding
If we,
for changes of that intersection. If we wanted to do anything, that would all be paid for by the township for the signal, which we're again looking at over $650,000.
Right.
We did apply for an LSA grant, but we'd also applied for several other LSA grants at the same time. So we kind of competed with ourselves, and we did get others, but we did not get the one for this project.
Okay. Thank you for that information.
thank you, Commissioner Norris. Commissioner Brockington.
Yes. Hey, Joe, I'm assuming this is right near Myers. This is in the Myers area.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, and I know, Bo, we're looking at putting some speed cushions in that area. Can this be tied in? Bo, can your work be done before, after, or during while they're doing this work in that area?
Yeah, it can be done either before or after. Joe's project is limited to the intersection. The speed cushions would obviously be in between the intersections, so we'll be outside of his area of work there.
So I'm just thinking, can you do it while they're doing their work? So this way we're not closing the street down for a longer period of time.
Yeah, I think we can coordinate that.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Brockington. Thank you, Mr. Coyle. Any other questions or comments from members of the board on this one? I see none, so I'll move for approval of recommending the award of the construction contract to NJS Concrete in the amount of $203,972.10 for the Montgomery Mill intersection improvement project. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any
Abstain.
opposed? Excuse me?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Go to the next item, 1D. Consider recommending the Board of Commissioners approve a services contract to Gannett Fleming in the amount of $32,000 for 30% design services on the Robinson Park project. There is an attachment, and I have a feeling there's going to be some discussion on this. So do we want to first start with staff? Mr. Phillips, since it's Gannett Fleming?
Say I can jump in real quick before
Go ahead,
Mr.
Allison. I'm
Phelps
sorry.
jumps in. Good evening. So this is a cost estimate for moving the project forward from conceptual to preliminary design. This is following a series of community meetings and then a meeting we had with a smaller group of representatives of the community to talk about some of the concerns that were had in the public meetings. I think we had a really good discussion. There's still, some things that will need to be worked out through the preliminary design process and questions that will need to be answered through this process. So we're looking to move forward with this phase of the design. Gannett Fleming has provided a proposal for a cost estimate to move that forward.
Okay. Mr. Phillips, do you want to weigh in now?
I believe that pretty much covered it. We have the intended scope and the attachment in our proposal. I don't know that there's much more to add.
Okay. I know that there's been some communication circulated to the board from some of the neighbors and residents. I don't know whether they were involved in a lot of the discussions and whether they can in some way weigh in or participate with some of their concerns on the design services that you're going to be recommending. So I guess I would ask, are there other members of the board who have questions or comments first? I see none. I see some hands. Oh, Commissioner
No.
Rappaport. I'm sorry. I missed that finger wag. Go ahead.
Okay, well, so actually, this is sort of between Commissioner Chirco's, it's kind of in his ward, but also along mine, and we share boundaries and certainly the historical district and residents. So I do have a bunch of comments, and first of all, thank you, because Mr. Phillips did answer address some last minute questions I had this week, because I guess we weren't certain when it was going to appear on the agenda. And so I want to make a couple of things clear, because I think there are still some ongoing questions, quite a few. So I want to make real clear that I do support the daylighting of the stream, the appropriate functional riparian buffer, the vegetative buffer that's going to presumably do a lot of service to both the stream, the water, and the ecology area. The removal of the Phragmites, and that is a continuing issue. That's not a one and done. And the support of the pollinators and the birds and the frogs and the butterfly and the fish. All that. The ongoing questions, I think, for me, have to do with the role of the park in the community. And that includes things like the viewscape, and this wasn't touched on adequately in this part of the proposal. So the viewscape, which is, you know, a historic district. So these are contributing features to the Wyncote Historical District and the pieces of it as well. So that means the wall, the gazebo, the grotto, and so forth and so forth. The place, which has to do with recreation, passive recreation, places for sitting and watching, as well as walking, for parks and rec, possibly concerts, Tai Chi, things like classes. And also, it specifically excluded discussion of the community garden. I don't know what's up with that. So I did ask some questions to staff, as I said. The flow splitting device, I wasn't really sure how that operated. I didn't understand fully its impact. And the establishment of it that we talked about, but we didn't arrive at anything, the sediment and litter forebay catchment area. And the impact that would have the area and the pond. So those three. And I think part of the answer that I got was that we won't know the answers to my questions on that until we do the 30%. I don't really understand that either. So I'm just going to raise some other questions real quick, and then I'll shut up. One of the ironies is that here's a pond that, to my understanding, has been part of the viewscape in the historic district since before it was a historic district. This pond has been there for over 120 years, to our knowledge. And it bothers me that only in the last, I would say 5 or 6 years, have we encountered the problems that we're seeing in it today. So my underlying question is, why can't we do what we need to do to restore the pond so it lasts another 100 years, especially if we're going to fix the stream and deal with that. So that's one outstanding question. So that we could do perhaps both. We could naturalize the stream, but keep the pond intact. And that may be part of where we're going, but that's not, to my mind, that's not what it says in the design. Another piece is that this park is I would call it a pocket park, right? It's a little over 4 acres. And once we daylight the stream and add the proper size of the riparian buffer, I think we're up to over 3 acres, which doesn't leave, and there's still a lot of trees, thankfully. So that doesn't leave a lot of area for visitors, for benches, for that kind of thing. And that's a concern. And then the underlying issue for all of this is, I think the whole community acknowledges that there are benefits to be gained from the dechannelizing the stream. And perhaps the flood mitigation, hopefully some flood mitigation. The question is the trade-offs. Is the amount of the clean, the stormwater credits, the MS4 stuff, are the benefits going to be sizable enough to be worth the trade-offs to the historic district, to the population that uses the park, to the parks and recreation options, and all of those other pieces of the park in the community. So I think it's really ironic that we're undoing a stream that actually was channelized under townships last 25 years of jurisdiction. So that's also bothersome, and I'm sure that irony is not lost on our taxpayers. So I'm done. As I say, I want to go forward with parts of it. I don't want to go forward with some of it.
Okay. Mr. Phillips, can you share, I just responding to Commissioner Rappaport's questions, comments, considerations. Can you share some of those things that have been factored in or will be factored in and calculated in the proposed design services that you're taking on?
I will attempt to. Commissioner Rappaport and I have had many conversations on this project. So it is the intention of the design to maintain the viewscape of the pond. It's our understanding that pond is not in very good shape. I mean, certainly if the board would like us to take a look at the condition of that pond structurally and address that's something that we could certainly do. There are parts of this, and on the call with me tonight, or on the meeting tonight, is Nathan Walker, who is our stormwater planner, who handles the pollution reduction plan for the township. There are certain things that need to be done here to be in conformance with the pollution reduction plan of the MS4 program, and by just dechanneling the stream does not address what is in that pollution reduction plan. Now, Commissioner Rappaport mentioned some of the passive uses of the park, and that this will encompass a large area of that park. Again, I don't believe that's something for me to answer. That's a question that the board needs to decide, whether this is going to be an active recreation park, a passive recreation park, or if it's going to be shared as part of a pollution reduction plan or not, because there are certain criteria that we need to meet to address that pollution reduction plan. So,
Mr. Walker, can you weigh in on that, particularly on the MS4 and the pollution reduction issues?
Yeah, Roger's right in that just daylighting the stream is not quite worth the investment that it would take to daylight the stream. You wouldn't get much bang for your buck if you just daylighted the stream. The conversion of the landscape, the riparian buffer, finding some ways to reduce sediment discharge to the Tookenny Creek, and that's really what the pollutant reduction plan is: reducing sediment discharge to the Tookenny, and using the riparian area, the stream area, which overlaps in some places with the pond, is something that would need to be done to get any meaningful credit towards your DEP compliance responsibilities. And our 30% design, where this ends, is a pre-application meeting with the regulators about the viewscape, the historic district. That's all going to come into play. Where our current proposal ends is that discussion with regulators to make sure they have their input when it comes to historic preservation and those cultural resources, as well as the ecological resources too. So that's part of our process.
Commissioner Lewis, would you be good enough to help me on that chat stuff? Because of my situation here, I can't really deal with it. Are there some issues in chat that should be brought to the table and at least factored in or discussed sufficiently to make sure that some of the concerns or dissatisfaction with this proposal can be put on the table and at least factored in as we start to do both our compliance and also try and maintain quality of both park and accessibility for public use, et cetera. So if you have the ability to do that, I would greatly appreciate it.
Commissioner.
Good.
You mind if I
No, I
speak?
don't mind. Go ahead,
I don't
Commissioner
know that
Charbonneau.
I don't know that there's any questions in the chat right now. Just a comment. The community would like the board to make a request. Listen, I agree with a lot of what Commissioner Rappaport has said. I believe and I trust that the engineers, when they design this, are going, my hope is, my expectation is that they're taking in all of the feedback that we have gotten from the Friends of Robinson Park, that you've heard from Commissioner Rappaport, myself. I like some things about this. Obviously, dechanneling the stream. I understand the riparian buffer and the importance of that. I think that there's a balance. I think there's a balance between, well, one, trying to keep the aesthetic as much as we possibly can. I'm not one who is terribly upset about adding additional plantings in this park. I don't think that large swaths of lawn are great for the environment. And so I think that we need to balance, having swaths of grass and lawn with, with I think that's any park should have that mix. And so I so appreciate all of the passion and the interest that the community has in this. I am expecting that Nathan or the designers, anyone who is designing this has listened to this, recognizes what the concerns are in this park and in this community, and designs in a way that tries to respect both the aesthetic as much as possible, as well as the ability of the community to use this park in recreation activities as well. And so that is my expectation. That is what I'm asking for when voting on this today.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other members of the board that want to weigh in on this? I know there's a number of members of the community. We can have a little bit of discussion. We're not going to change, the design service undertaking in this discussion, but we need to incorporate many of the concerns that have been expressed in terms of the availability, the use of the park, the not limiting and not creating problems that would not make it an amenable and continuing use, mini park or small park location. So if there's somebody, I know we've received some extensive things. If there is somebody in the community who would like to weigh in with issues that are different from what were raised by Commissioner Rappaport, if there's somebody from Friends of Robinson Park that wants to speak to things that have not been discussed and are going to be, we expect, as our engineer and their team have heard, many of those things expressed and written are obviously going to weigh in on whatever the design process is. I think it's important.
We have Donna Andrews ready for it with her hand up.
Okay, then Donna, if you're from the Friends of Robinson Park, we'll listen. And I would just ask that we have some additional concerns, et cetera, that haven't been articulated, that haven't been written. But many of the things that are written, I know a lot of us receive them, and we'd like to make sure that they are factored into the process that we're about to review and approve. So Donna, if you're there, go right ahead.
Hi, thank you very much. My name's Donna Andrews. Live in Cheltenham Village, but I'm a recent addition to the Board of Historical and Architectural Review. And the president of the board, Clive Copping, asked me to come tonight and ask a couple of questions because he was unable to make it. I did take a look at Gannett Fleming's proposal, and Mr. Walker addressed some of this, but there's a line item there for coordination of the pre-application meeting on the 30% design with DEP and the Army Corps. And my question is whether the proposal includes coordination of BHAR's review with PHMC's review under the Pennsylvania History Code, because that's not completely done yet. PHMC asked some questions back in November, and one of the ones that they wanted to hear back about was input from BHAR as a certified local government. So I just wanted to know if that was a phase, if interaction with the BHAR was something that you expected to happen during this next phase of design, or if that was something that you expected to happen after the 30%. I'd really recommend doing it sooner so that any design changes as we try to meld these two goals together can be addressed sooner rather than later, because it's more expensive to make changes later.
Okay, Roger, Nathan, can you weigh in on that?
Nathan, can you?
Yeah, sure. So as you can see in our scope, meeting with the Pennsylvania Department of Environmental Protection, we would need any work that would be done on this design requires their permit, their authorization. They are in communication and with PHMC, and they can't issue the permit without PHMC clearance.
Okay.
So that's part of it. Now, I know the BHAR has talked to PHMC about working together. My goal is to get through DEP, which has to work with PHMC. PHMC works with the BHAR. That's that communication.
Ms. Andrews, do you have anything else?
That was it for now. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right, so I think
He has there's Alicia Agoglia has her hand up. Did you want to?
Alicia, do you have some different issues to raise?
Alicia, you're muted.
Thank you, Alex. I'm Alicia Golia, and I have a couple of questions actually that I had concerns about. And thank you both, Ann and Jeff, for your comments. At the December 3rd meeting, I just wanted to know if the commissioners, both Commissioner Rappaport and Commissioner Chirico, received minutes of the meeting at that time. And I don't know that the
All
Friends group.
commissioners received meeting minutes from every meeting. So the answer is yes.
Okay, thank you. And then the one thing that was agreed upon was that that Gannett Fleming had taken soil samples, and that the results of those soil samples were to be forwarded to Friends of Robinson Park. And I was wondering if they're still outstanding, if those could please be forwarded. And that's just a request. And then also, as Gannett Fleming is doing, is getting more samples for the park, if you could please let us know when that's happening. And then one question that wasn't addressed is, we had talked about a staged approach over a multi-year period. Is in the design project, is Gannett Fleming still going to consider that? We talked about it having a lot of beneficial, it would benefit us in a lot of ways, mostly to establish both plants and habitat, and it would be cost effective. So I was wondering if that was considered in the design process. I know that it's only a request for the first 30%, but if that would be included. So I was just, that wasn't stated, so I'm asking.
Thank you. Roger, Nathan? Is that a relevant portion of the 30% of the design phase?
It's certainly a consideration that we can take. I mean, again, I've said this a number of times. We have a conceptual plan. We don't know what this final plan is going to be yet because we haven't entered design. Once we know where this is going and under, a little bit more of design, we can certainly consider a phased approach. We don't 100% know what we're doing yet, right? So we can't say that we're going to phase it because we don't know what that is yet. That'll all be part of the considerations as we work our way through the 30% and through the 90 and the 100% design and the permitting.
Okay.
Understood. And then finally, we had talked about leaving the reflecting pool out of the scope of the project, and it seems to now be in it. I think Commissioner Rappaport spoke my mind on many of those issues. So I don't think I need to continue with that as you're doing your 30%, but I think the group as a whole would like to see that left. But anyway, and then finally is a request all the way around is, this year, can we have an aerator, please?
I don't believe that's relevant for this particular discussion. So we'll leave that, we'll put that to the side. But thank you, Alicia. It
Thank
is
you.
appreciated. Okay. I see more hands up. I'm going to make this one last input. I think what we've shown you is that Gannett Fleming is open to listening and trying to accommodate, also knowing that they have regulatory responsibilities for any body of water that sometimes overrides what may be preferences by the community that we have to ultimately live with and make to what Commissioner Rappaport shared or trade-offs. So that's one thing. Brooke, I see your hand up and we haven't heard from you in a while. So go ahead and weigh in, and then we'll close discussion after this.
Okay, but there are two community members that also have that have their hands raised as well. And
I'm going to practically say this is the last piece of input. Anything else can be submitted in writing subsequent to this to tonight's session.
Okay, so I wanted to initially state that the notes that we were promised, that was maybe like a mistake on your part, is that there were notes that we were promised in this meeting from Gannett Fleming, which we did not receive. I've been in contact with Ann and Jeff as well. Neither of them have received those notes. I know that Bill Salvatore has helped ask about them as well. So thank you for that. So hopefully those meeting minutes that we're looking for will come our way.
Okay.
I wanted to just read a statement from the Friends of Robinson Park, as I am a board member. And my name is Brooke Welsh. Thank you for the opportunity to address you this evening. I'm here as a representative of the Friends of Robinson Park, and I'm grateful to speak on behalf of our community. Over the course of several months, the Friends of Robinson Park has developed a clear vision for what we would like to see in the next iteration of the park, particularly as it pertains to this project. Our vision includes to maintain and enhance its historical integrity, to protect the gazebo, grotto, wall, memorial garden, and community garden, to retain the structure of the grazing pool, including the concrete coping with plantings to create a barrier to access, daylight and add riparian buffer to the stream, eliminate phragmite, construct a bridge connecting each side of the stream to allow access to the full park, protect existing aquatic wildlife while conducting any studies and during channel removal, to retain and preserve open recreational space. We are optimistic that the scientific study of the park, which is to take place in the next phase of the project, will provide mutually beneficial clarity to the community and the township. While there are multiple issues and challenges we see with the proposed concepts that we were presented to the community, we would like to see a continued path forward to work in partnership with the township in advance, to advance the mission of Friends of Robinson Park. We have galvanized a group of eager volunteers who stand ready to engage with the township to execute our vision for the future park. We are partnering with Bill Salvatore and other Friends groups to form a Friends of Friends consortium to support and promote our mutual endeavors and work with the township in a meaningful capacity. We're also partnering with other local community groups to communicate our mission and to expand our support. Further, we seek to educate the community on issues related to conservation, restoration, and preservation of the park for generations to come. As outlined.
Thank you, Brooke.
Sorry?
I'd say we're basically at 3 minutes.
Okay, that's great. So I also want to say, just make a final comment that when I asked commissioners about this agenda item coming up, I was told that they were as kind of surprised as we were, and that this conversation needed to take place publicly in daylight, just to, so that we could have open conversation. I understand that you had technical difficulties getting this meeting started in a timely manner, but that should not stop the community from having the opportunity to speak publicly and on the record.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I think we've done that. I know you may not feel it's fully accommodated, but we really have been over and been inclusive in this. I'm going to take 2 more comments. First from Kurt Ahrens, because Kurt is definitely somebody who's involved in a number of our township committees. Go ahead, Kurt.
Excuse me, can I just jump in real quick, Commissioner?
No, you actually can't.
It's Samantha.
Sorry. We
Oh,
did.
Go ahead.
recognize that the Friends of Robinson Park were asking for the wetlands report, and it is up on the website on Cheltenham Townships under projects, plans, and study. And then Robinson Park, we did have a link to the wetland report. So hopefully that way everybody can see it.
Thank you, Samantha.
Can you put the link,
That was
can you
helpful.
put the link on in the chat to that, please?
Okay. Kurt, please.
All right, thank you. Kurt Ahrens, I live in Wyncote. I have been involved in the Environmental Advisory Council and the Planning Commission, although currently under state law, because I'm an elected official, I'm not allowed to serve on those citizen committees, so that's why I've resigned from those posts. My question is that earlier, last fall, I think when there was a lot of discussion about this project, I saw some documents that I thought came with recommendations from DEP or maybe from an environmental company that essentially claimed that the naturalizing of the stream would actually take care of a lion's share of the achieving these MS4 goals. And yet tonight, Mr. Walker basically claimed something different from that, saying that the pond project would have to be done to achieve any meaningful effect. And so I just would like to see an accounting of the expected benefits of dechannelizing the stream versus creating that pond or detention basin or whatever you want to call it. Because, you know, I had just seen something that seemed to indicate the reverse before. And so if we don't need to destroy the historic reflecting pool to create an unnatural pond, which has a liner. I don't understand what the liner is about, if it's supposed to be like a natural pond. But anyway, that was my question. I'd like to understand exactly what the benefits are and how they're accounted or predicted or measured for each of these specific actions that we could take.
Thank you, Mr. Ernst. Mr. Walker and Mr. Phillips, can that be factored in? Can you show the two different options so that that will give a clear reason why that's being undertaken?
Yes, we'll follow using DEP's guidance and the compliance responsibilities will show the difference in the calculations between what just daylighting the stream provides as far as a sediment reduction benefit, and then more of a riparian buffer, a broader take, and show the difference. Yeah, we'll absolutely be able to show that difference.
Thank you. I've been asked to take one more comment. I believe Michael or Michelle Love is the last hand raised, and then we'll close this. So go ahead.
Hi, Michael Love. I live in Wyncote on Wall Lane. And I'm kind of disappointed in the way this has all progressed. It started off back in the last summer with a plan for daylighting the stream and transformed itself magically into a plan for basically turning the park into a swamp. And this, despite significant public opposition, loudly and clearly stated, there doesn't seem to be any impact from the public input into this design process. My request is that the proposed 30% plan to go to Gannett Fleming cover only daylighting the stream, riparian buffer, you know, some weeds, stuff like that. This whole project that involves relining the pond and all that garbage, flooding the park and turning it into a swamp, this is an unmitigated disaster. You've got all of Tookenny Creek and Rock Creek with huge flows of water and sediment, where if you want to control the sediment and pollution that's going out into the Delaware, you got a great place to do it. But you look at a tiny little creek with a tiny little flow through it, and you want to turn our park into a swamp. The only good thing that would come of this plan is that Gannett Fleming will make a lot of money. I'm sorry if I'm annoyed, but I was kind of annoyed at having to sit through all this delay and nonsense.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Love. We appreciate your input. You know, I think that closes public comment. I think that there's been a significant amount of input, both in this meeting as well as in between, I guess, the December and subsequent meetings with respect to this. So I'm going to move for closure. I think with all the input that's been received, Gannett Fleming has an additional set of tasks that are associated with the 30% design services. There may be a need, Mr. Phillips, for you to modify the budget if that is something that has to be done in order to accommodate many of the requests and to factor in the trade-offs and some of the different pieces of information that are in fact relevant to both the stormwater management as well as to maintaining the quality of life and the utility of Robinson Park. So that's something that probably has to be evaluated subsequent to this meeting. So what I'm going to do is move that we consider recommending an approval, but conditional on Gannett Fleming being able to conduct those design services as per the various sources of input in a fashion that reflects the public input and some of the other technical input that's required to bring this project through that 30% design service. So with that, I'll ask if there are any members of the board who want to take issue with that proposed recommendation, or if we can move on a vote. Commissioner Rappaport, I'll give you last word.
Well, thank you. What I'm trying to figure out is if there's a way, it's currently written that there are certain pieces that are confusing to me. For example, the way that the pond is described with a different kind of liner and all. I guess the question is it possible to do the design without, and I don't know what impact this has on the money, but to do, in a sense, 1.5 designs so that we can design it with, channel and the more or less sizable, the appropriate sized riparian buffer without with fixing the pond, but not necessarily taking it out. And then also the way the design is written now. What would that do? So, if we could have sort of a choice so that we can actually see what the trade-offs are along with those MS4, the difference in those credits. So we really know what the costs are and what the options are to the best of our.
So let me cut to the chase. So Mr. Phillips and Mr. Walker, can under the current recommendation here, are you able to conduct the review with the trade-offs, with the various options, and still do that to the 30% design and in the budget amount that's being proposed? Because if it's not possible, then we have to basically find a different way to proceed here.
I think that we can do some studies in with this design as we get into the design that can outline both of those scenarios. And if the township decides they don't want to touch the pond, then don't touch the pond, and we can work around that. And we will have to evaluate what that does to the credits that we receive from the DEP.
Okay, that
Again,
seems to be an
because
acceptable
going back
accommodation.
initially when this all started, however long it's been, 1.5 years, 2 years ago, with the pollution reduction plan, this was a piece of your pollution reduction plan. It wasn't a park modification project. So if this is going to be a park improvements project, then it steps out of the pollution reduction plan. And that's something that I don't believe that I can decide. I think that's a decision for the board of what this project eventually becomes. or what this project is.
Okay. Makes it very difficult. I think there's too many issues, there's too many controversies here for us to authorize approval of this tonight and move it to the legislative session without having some better sense that both the pollution reduction as well as the use and quality of park elements can be incorporated. If you don't feel confident that you can incorporate that in some of the.
That's not what I said.
Okay, go ahead. I'm sorry.
We will incorporate anything that the township asks us to incorporate into this. What I'm saying is that if you try to balance those two, it may not be a viable pollution reduction plan any longer, and it is a park modifications plan. If you understand what I'm saying,
I do.
And then you will not receive those DEP credits at the back end of this project.
Okay.
Which was the goal when this started.
Okay.
Commissioner, I think the issue about approving the amount of money that's being asked to is, we have this is a very delicate balance, right? We don't want to completely disrupt part of the beauty of that pond. And so I think we're in a difficult situation to figure out, how can this be done? How can we, keep some of the aesthetic of the pond, but also that pond needs work. I mean, we need significant work on that. That is not a healthy pond as it is. And so I think where I struggle is, what can we do to make that pond healthy again? Can that pond be healthy and aesthetically pleasing, keeping some of that charm, keeping the historic charm, while also creating while also helping us to achieve these MS4 credits. I think that's the problem that I don't know that I have an answer for right now, or am I hearing an answer for?
Well, and again, that's our goal. That's been our goal all along, and we've been to these meetings. We've listened to the residents, and we can try to incorporate as much as we can. We also get feedback from the residents that are conflicting, right? So we plan to incorporate all of that into any design that we do. But again, going backward, it's not my goal to turn this into an ugly weed bank, but it is a part of the pollution reduction plan. There are certain things under the DEP's regulatory requirements have to be done. And it's not as simple as just naturalizing the stream. Just naturalizing the stream doesn't get it done.
With the riparian buffer.
Excuse me?
Well,
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
So I'm asking, are you saying de-channelizing it with the appropriate riparian buffer does not get it done? Is that what you're saying?
A large part of that is the riparian buffer and the wetlands. And Nathan, jump in here.
Sure.
This is your part of it.
Yeah, absolutely. So like I said before, daylighting the stream gets you a certain number of credits that DEP is expecting the township to produce. And compared to, one of the previous residents asked for the math that shows, all right, how many credits do you get for daylighting the stream versus how many credits do you get for having a more naturalized landscape? Go ahead, Ann.
I'm sorry, but I think we're not quite on the same place. I think when we talk about naturalizing the stream, we are talking about some significant plantings, some significant riparian buffer. What is not clear is the difference between daylight, and I don't want to speak for the residents, but what I have been asking is, you daylight the stream, put in the appropriate buffer. Can you do that while improving the pond, fixing the pond, but not?
Mr. Chairman,
I'm going to bring
yeah.
this to closure. I'm going to
Yeah,
move.
Mr.
I'm
Chairman,
just
if I-
asking.
if
I'm going to move that this item be tabled to next month. And in the interim period, some discussions with staff and with our subject matter experts, as well as incorporating some of the feedback from tonight's meeting and any incremental feedback that's coming on. So I'm going to move that this item be tabled to next month's Public Works, because we've taken 20 some minutes and we really haven't gotten to a point of resolution that satisfies any of the concerns of the agendas. So with that, I'm going to ask the board to approve tabling this to the April agenda. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Mr.
Any-
Chairman,
any
can we
opposed?
ask for a recommendation from staff at the legislative meeting?
I don't know that we have in the 2 week we can ask for, but that to me does not have an impact on tabling this motion.
No, it doesn't.
Because we still have discussion and
Agreed.
input that needs to be factored in. So I believe that I believe the motion to table this passed, so I'm going to move to the next item. Item E, review of street segments to be included in the 2025 Cheltenham Township Paving Program. And I believe, Bo, this would be your opportunity to shine.
Yeah, this is a compiled list of streets that are in need of repaving. Most of these were submitted last year when I gave you a 2-year plan. There have been a couple modifications with upcoming utility work and some upcoming maybe traffic calming projects that the township's looking at. So this is staff's recommendation of the streets that are most in need. And there are 5 alternate streets that we can get as close to that budget as possible if the base bid comes in under budget.
Okay. Are any members of the board would like to weigh in on at least the initial proposal? And I know it came from 2 years ago, so I would assume that conditions have changed in some of those roads, and you've probably accounted for that.
Yes.
Okay. Any members of the board with any questions or additions at this point, knowing that there's also other options that they've incorporated in case there is a need to change, and also to deal with what is budgeted? Commissioner Lewis.
Has there been, how old is this list, Bo?
Excuse me?
How old is the list?
This list is the new list. This is the most updated one, formulated over the last 6 weeks or so. Last year, I submitted a 2024 and 2025 perspective list. Most of the ones that I submitted last year have transferred over onto this, but there have been a couple slight modifications.
Okay. So my question was, sounds like you answered. My question is, have there been any roads that have worsened since the original list that needs to be?
Yeah, I mean, with time, every road's getting worse. So we have to be very delicate, and we use a lot of input from commissioners' input, residents' input, staff's input, recurring surface issues that we have, upcoming traffic calming, future utility work, past utility work that's been done. All of these come into factor when we come up with these lists to give you.
Understood. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments from members of the board? So I will move for approval of of at least the current street segments to be included in the 2025 paving program. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None. Okay, we go. Item F, consider recommending the Board of Commissioners approve the following equipment purchases, which were included in the 2025 capital budget. Point 1, bullet point 1, a new Ford F-150 for Public Works Director in the amount of $46,681 from New Holland Auto Group. There's an attachment. Item point B, a Park Hustler Super 104 mower in the amount of $30,000 from Best Line Equipment. Again, an attachment. And then third bullet point, a second bucket truck for the Streetlight Department in the amount of $170,000 from Alltech Industries Incorporated. There's also an attachment. anybody from, I guess, staff want to just weigh in on the necessary and essential nature of each of these purchases, which are in fact included in the capital budget?
All right, I'll take this one.
Go ahead, Jim.
On the F-150, that's for Bo, and Bo's definitely in need of a new vehicle. That Park Super Hustler is for the Parks Department, which would actually help them to cut the fields a little bit quicker, much
Is
more
that replacing an
efficiently.
existing piece of equipment?
Yes.
No, it's actually an addition.
Okay.
And
the
then
second
you also
bucket
have-
truck?
On that note, it's an additional piece of equipment, but one of our other lawnmowers is on its last leg, and this will be replacing that.
You mean Jim can't magically bring it back to life?
Jim has done so much magic that, I've seen him vanish on screen a couple times tonight. So,
All right.
but we do our best to recycle equipment as much as possible.
No, we know.
I kind of fought Jim on the F-150. However, building maintenance is in need of a pickup truck right now, so that F-150 will be shifted over to there.
Sure. Okay.
And
And the second bucket truck, particularly for the streetlight department, in the amount of $170,000. I don't know if Joe wants to weigh in on it, or we've known that that's been something that was requested over the last couple of years.
Yeah, the streetlight department right now is just the streetlight guy who does everything. That's Joe. We need to get him some help. So the first step in getting him some help and hiring an additional employee to help him out is to have a second bucket truck so that Joe can work with that employee in tandem when they have streetlight and traffic signal issues.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Arman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Slade, I noticed that there's the Parks Hustler Super 104 mower in this item, but I also noticed there's another mower for Parks and Rec down at the bottom in item I. Are both necessary? Do they complement each other, or can you just talk a little bit about that?
Yes, they will complement one another. As a matter of fact, the one that's down in I is the main mower, which is the mower that's used at Curtis and all the other large parks. That one actually needs a new engine because the engine blew on that one. And this other mower would actually take some of the work away from that one. So it will be easier. That wouldn't have to work as hard.
Got it. I mean, look, if we need these pieces of machinery, we need them. But I do have concerns because of our budget, because of our financial situation, that as long as you're telling me that these are necessities, I could get on board. But I want to make sure that we are checking and double checking and triple checking to make sure that these are all absolute necessities and can't be pushed off to just for another year, because we do have to, mind our dollars and cents. So
that's understood. There are some things that have been pushed aside. As a matter of fact, a garbage truck, a new garbage truck for this year, also another van for the property department, that's been pushed off for this year also. And in the stormwater budget, where we have the vacuum street sweeper, it's in the budget. If you look in the budget, it's in there for $450,000. So I did my due diligence and I actually found something else, which is local, out of Stuart Amos, which will cost us $327,000. So that's going to be a savings in that budget of $119,000. So I have been doing my best to shave where I can.
Thank you, Jim.
Okay.
Yeah,
that is appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you. So can I move for authorization for all three for all three purchases? The F-150 for Public Works, the Parks Hustler Super 104 motor, and the second bucket truck for the Streetlight Department. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, we'll move on. Next, item G. Consider recommending the Board of Commissioners approve the following equipment purchases, which were included in the 2025 stormwater budget. Bullet 1, the overhaul of the Beast horizontal grinder in the amount of $90,000 from Stevenson Equipment Company. There's an attachment. And as Mr. Slade just said, a new and reduced cost vacuum street sweeper, which was $450,000, now in the amount of $327,870 from Stewart Amos Equipment Company. Any questions or comments from members of the board? Or Samantha, do you have any issues with respect to, anything that is or isn't essential in these two recommendations? I see you, Jeff. I'll be with you. I don't see Samantha respond.
Well, sorry, no, Jim was able to send me the specs and it looks great, so.
Okay. Mr. Charco, go ahead.
No, I wasn't asking for anything.
Oh, okay. Okay. I'm sorry. All right. So I'll move for authorization of those two. I love saying this, the beast horizontal grinder and the vacuum street sweeper for those two amount. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Coming from my mouth, the word beast usually is not really well taken. But anyway, we'll go to item H. Consider recommending the Board of Commissioners approve the following equipment purchases, which were included in the 2025 liquid fuels budget. Bullet point 1, a highway Bobcat T4 tow behind compressor in the amount of $28,500 from Best Line Equipment. A highway case 58 OSN WT backhoe in the amount of $150,000 from Eagle Power Equipment Company. Point 3, a highway number 68 bucket truck in the amount of $124,564 from Alltech Industries. And I guess I will again ask, is that Bo? You want to give us a little bit on this one as well?
Yeah, I'll kick it off. Something we started last year was using some of our liquid fuels funds to replace the equipment, so not bring it out of the capital budget. So the tow behind compressor, we have two of them. One's in decent condition. The other one's, it's been here longer than I have, so it's well over 22 years old, probably closer to 30 years old. It's on its last leg. It never starts. It's just.
Well, we don't want to say the same of you, Bo, so we'll definitely do the replacement.
Okay. These are all instrumental in our roadwork programs. They're going to be instrumental in the traffic calming as we build these speed cushions. These are necessary pieces of equipment. Okay. Our current backhoe, Jim, I think it's about 15 years old. That is, it's falling apart. It's rotting. It's becoming a safety issue. So it's either invest a ton of money into that or go with a new one that standardizes our equipment. And we feel that that's much greater return on investment.
The way you describe it, it doesn't sound like we can put it into the aftermarket.
Yeah, that's becoming a safety issue with that backhoe.
Okay.
It is.
Gotcha. Go ahead. Last one is the bucket truck.
And the bucket truck is another one that they're starting to become safety issues with the age of the truck and just, parts wear out. So we'd like to replace that as well.
It would appear to me to be a terrific use of the liquid fuels budget. And it also defrays us from having to put additional pressure on our capital budget. So thank you. Any questions or comments from members of the board on these three items? So I'll move for authorization of those three purchases: the highway Bobcat T4 compressor, the highway case backhoe, and the bucket truck. All, necessary and essential things based on the input from our subject matter experts on staff. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank
Any
you,
opposed? Thank you.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you. Item I, consider recommending the Board of Commissioners approve repairs to the Park Department Jacobson field mower in the amount of $28,112 from Lawn and Golf Supply Company. See attached. And I guess that's, is that for you, Jim, to weigh in on again?
Yeah, that's actually for an engine. Apparently the engine blew on that piece of equipment, and that's something that we need. So unfortunately, that's a necessary evil that has to be repaired.
Okay.
A new unit costs you over $100,000.
All right. Well, we'll take 28,000 against 100 anytime.
Yes, sir.
Any questions or comments from members of the board? I see none, so I'll move for approval of the mower in the amount of $28,112. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Any opposed? No. Okay. I believe that ends our purchasing. Now let's do something important and talk about consider recommending the Board of Commissioners adopt a proclamation recognizing the month of April 2025 as Safe Digging Month. So I would ask if there's any, is there a comment or, just an overview very quickly? I know that we've done this year in and year out. And I also know that occasionally, is that still under 811?
Yes, Commissioner.
Okay, thank you. So we've authorized that, and I know that this proclamation will keep people from doing any unapproved and unauthorized digging where there could be either electric or utility lines. Anybody want to weigh in on this, or can we just authorize the proclamation, and I guess that'll move for the legislative session where we'll formally endorse it. Any questions? None. So I'll move for approval of the proclamation. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, thank you. Are there any other items? Do we have K, L, M, N, O, and P for tonight? Or can we go to Citizens Forum? I see no additional items for new business. So I will move to item number 4, Citizens Forum. Are there any hands raised? I can't see. So if anybody has feedback on Citizens Forum comment, Allison, if you see anybody, head shake means that we are no. Oh, there we go. Mary Russell. Mary, how are you? And go ahead. You're a well-regarded and respected citizen of this community.
Thank you. I couldn't get my hand raised fast enough. I just want to really fast comment on the waiver on the sidewalk requirement for the earlier agenda item.
For the Ogontz Avenue item.
Yeah. Agenda 3A. I think I'm very happy you're going to look into whether or not there's another way to keep the sidewalk. As someone who's walked at night in unlit areas of this township on unsafe streets, I really, really, really think that we need to have sidewalks. And I think there is a matter of, if you build it, they will come, or out of, that it's chicken and egg. There are a lot of houses that are near that area, and the people might walk more if there were good sidewalks. So
do you have a concept or recommendation for, what Commissioner Rappaport raised, or Commissioner Charco, which raised another use of funding to be able to bring improvements of that kind of thing? And you don't have to answer that now, but I know that in the past you've given us some good ideas for different things. So I'm going to put the onus on you in this interim period to, if you have some suggestions, to please share them.
No, I kind of like having sidewalks right where the sidewalks need to be so people can walk. I think it's a great idea if they would do both, because I'd like to see more trails.
Thank you, Mary. Much appreciated. Any other Citizens Forum comments? Allison, you see any? Okay, we'll close Citizens Forum, and I move for adjournment of Public Works for the, what is this, March 5th? It's not the 6th yet, is it? Okay, thank you very much. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.